Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the ARP website are your one-stop knowledge and resource space for autism and much more. I'm happy to have Eddie Tuduri as my guest today. Eddie is a career musician who has worked with many of the world's great entertainers, both touring and in countless recordings spanning over 50 years. People such as the Beach Boys, Rick Nelson and the Stone Canyon Band, Freddie Fender and Charlie Rich, and Michael McDonald, to name a few. He has received many awards, including Volunteer of the Year by the U.S. Committee for UNICEF, the California Governor's Committee Michael Landon Award for accurately portraying people with disabilities in the media, and the Academia Cotopaxi Global Citizen Award, which is bestowed on an individual who has made a significant contribution to the betterment of humanity in Ecuador and the world. Eddie is no stranger to living with a disability and is the founder of the Rhythmic Arts Project, known as TRAP, which he created to help neurodiverse and disabled individuals overcome learning issues and address cognitive, emotional, and physical challenges. Welcome, Eddie. And thank you so much for taking time to join me today to discuss your organization and the important work that you do.
I'm honored. Thank you, Gilda. I think this is terrific. Every chance I get to talk about the Rhythmic Arts Project is a blessing to me.
So to begin with, can you please tell me about the beginnings of your organization and perhaps a bit about your own story and what inspired you?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, I was a career musician. I played for a living my whole life. It's funny how people wonder about that. They say, well, were you famous? You know, because I played with a lot of famous people. I worked for them. I was a sideman. And I did work a lot. And making a living as a drummer or as a guitar player, a keyboard player, that's an amazing feat. You don't necessarily, most of the people are not famous. They're worker bees like me. So that was really what my life in music consisted of. I made a lot of records. I did a lot of touring. I had all the limos and Learjets and all of that. But honestly, it was a labor of love, and I worked really hard at it, and I did it my whole life until right after my 50th birthday. Actually, and I was touring with Jimmy Messina. You might remember Loggins and Messina.
Sure do.
Jimmy and I have been playing together for a long time. And we were on the road. We were working. We were recording. It was a life. It was a good life. And I lived at the beach here in Santa Barbara. One day I went out and I caught a very bad wave. Long story short, the wave snapped my neck. And I was 3 feet underwater. I was totally paralyzed and there wasn't anyone there, and I was 20 yards out. And the near-death experience is really hard to articulate, no matter how many times I try, but it was a beautiful experience. I felt like I was in God's hot tub. I can't express what it felt like any more clearly than that, but I was alone. I was lifted from the bottom, placed at the shore gently, where the lifeguard with the most seniority on the Central Coast happened to be on duty. Then the paramedic with the most seniority on the Central Coast happened to be on duty. We went to the hospital where the best neurosurgeon, Dr. Scott Connor, happened to be there, and we did an emergency operation. 6 hours later, I woke up in the ICU, totally paralyzed from the neck down. No. And they had they couldn't tell me whether I would recover. They couldn't tell me anything, really. And I, after having experienced this wonderful near-death experience, wasn't afraid. There was no trepidation. I knew I'd be okay. I was the only one who believed that. But in fact, they sent me after a week or 10 days into the ICU. They sent me to the rehab here in Santa Barbara. And I was still paralyzed, totally paralyzed. And To make a long story short, after about 3 weeks, I started coming back. My right hand came back first. I could wiggle a toe, and I said, I'm coming all the way back, guys. Don't worry about me, And they were all. The psychiatrist came in and said, Eddie, you're going to really have to deal with this. You're probably going to spend your life in a wheelchair. You should start acclimating to the reality that this may be your life. And I said, well, I really respect you guys. I love you. I love what you do. Your kindness is overwhelming, but you're wrong. You're all wrong. I'm going to walk out of here. 6 weeks later, about 6 weeks later, I walked out with a cane. I walk with a cane. I'm a little goofy physically, but it hasn't stopped me. The Rhythmic Arts Project started, for me, it started the minute my neck snapped underwater that day. It's been a divinely guided situation for me from that moment until all this time. We started in the rehab in a mat room where we used to go every day as part of our regular. Once I was up in a wheelchair and able to partake in the rigorous schedule of rehab. One of those rooms, at that point, we had brought drums and instruments and started gathering therapists and people in that room, and we would just play. It wasn't a drum circle kind of thing. I don't understand drum circles entirely. That's not something I've ever done. What we did was ensemble, and the various therapists would use the ideas to address focus, memory, attention, balance, rehab goals. So that was all very interesting to everyone, and I started taking notes, and I could go on and on and on about this story, but when I got out of the hospital, I kept working with the recreational therapist that helped me. Her name was Libby Whaley. Libby Whaley and I started showing this idea to different therapists at conventions and so forth. And little by little, it started gaining a lot of attention. And I started moving around to different situations. I went to a school in Pasadena, California, where I met a couple of wonderful therapists, one a developmental therapist, the other a recreational therapist. They put it to use. I brought drums and some instruments. They had 26 children with a plethora of diagnoses. Autism was prevalent in those children, and everything else from Fragile X and just Down syndrome, everything. So it was a learning ground for me to work with these therapists and all these children and all the different disabilities. I began to learn and read and listen and ask a lot of questions. So I have no background in this. I hadn't. And so I actually stayed there for 6 years. I also worked at the ARC in Ojai. It was a place called the Enrichment Center, where a woman there who had been with Dr. Lavas from Applied Behavioral Analysis brought that element into the teaching. I had the best people. I surrounded myself with the best people. I feel like I was placed in all these places where people could teach me, where they could guide me, where I could make these kind of decisions in my students' lives as well as my own. And so I just felt really blessed all these years to have been surrounded by expertise, excellence, by wonderful, kind, giving, glorious people to me. That's how it started.
Well, that is absolutely an amazing story. I mean, really, talk about mind over matter. Talk about determination. Really incredible. But I do want to know more about the process, about how you work with your students, and also, do you work both in person and remotely? So people who may not happen to be in your particular geographic area, can also access this program and realize the benefits that it has to offer.
Yes. So, but we work hands-on. Sometimes if it's local, teachers come here, administrators come here, and I do classes right in my office. But remotely, I work every week. One of my new students, what we've done, I mean, to just fast forward a little bit, once the students have excelled in the program and the methodology, what do we do next? Well, we make them teachers' assistants, or we teach them to teach. I have two young men, both around 25, 26 years old, one in New York, one who is here, and they teach the program. Ben teaches here in Carpinteria, and then he used to teach in Ojai and in Ventura High School. He teaches other children, other young adults with autism, the Rhythmic Arts Project. He comes here and learns. He's been coming here for a few years. My new guy is Daniel, and Daniel is in upstate New York, and we're on Zoom every week. So yes, we do use Zoom quite a lot, really. So I teach in Africa. I have students in Africa and teachers that I'm teaching there. In South America, in Canada, and all over the United States and Thailand. So Zoom really comes in, especially during the pandemic. We used it all the time. It was the only mode of operation then. It's not as good. I admit it's not as good, because this program is about creating trust and a bond with your student. I get very close to my students. If I'm working within a semicircle, I don't speak from the head of the class, so to speak. I will go to each student. If it's very remedial in the beginning and they're learning how to count to 4, of course we use a drum. The drum is the tactile component of the learning curve. So we have a visual. I'll show them a visual that has 4 quarter notes written on a chart. And it's labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 very clearly. I show them the visual, and we have the drum. So that's the visual. Don't look at the drum as the drum, but the tactile component of the learning curve. You see it. When you hit the drum, you feel it. So you're feeling the lesson. It's a drum, so you hear it, so it's auditory. And you combine that with speech. Visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech. This is a multi-sensory, the redundance of information, really, but it helps us to not only learn, but retain that lesson. That's how the methodology works out from the very beginning until the end. That's the first exercise in the book, how to count. We count to 4, then we count to 8. We do some basic, simple mathematics, and we move on to laterality. So the next lesson is right from left. So now the quarter note is labeled R for right, and the next quarter note L for left, right, left, right, left. Then right, right, left, left, right, left, 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 right, right. There's 4 pages in that exercise. And we never do hand over hand. We never help. We do use tactile prompts, but we don't grab their hands or move anything for them. We may lightly touch their hands, and then if I'm touching the right hand, I'll put my right hand on their right hand, my left hand on their left hand. If it's a right, I'll take my right hand off, and they'll hit 1, then I'll say left, and I'll take my left hand off, and they hit that. So there's there's a structured guidance, but it's very gentle. It's never forced or hand over hand, really. So that quarter note then leads us to colors. We start identifying red, green, black, and blue. Now the quarter note is red, green, black, and blue. And we put it on 4 drums. We show them the chart. The chart has the quarter notes in colors, starting with red, blue, black, and green. Then it might be red, blue, black, black, or black, blue, green, red, and they have to follow that. So there's a bunch of pages in color because they're really fun. It's something that people really enjoy a lot too. The accents are something. When I first started going around the country with this 25 years ago, first of all, people looked at me with long hair and tattoos and a cane, a bongo under one hand and a cane in my other, and they said, well, "Who is this guy? Why should we listen to him?" I didn't have any background or authority, to do what I was doing, and I would have to explain that. Look, just give me a chance. I'm here. Give me an hour with your students and just see what's going on, And after a few minutes, they're hooked. When they see that their students are able to count and spell and all these various things that they had not approached in their methodology, they started looking at it differently.
Yeah, this is fascinating. So basically, it sounds like the students are using their various senses, if you will, and translating that into helping them to learn how to count, how to spell, how to do math, what other lessons do you work on with the students in terms of the various supports that you give them in terms of what they learn, and at what level, how high do you go? I mean, what we've been talking about is very rudimentary. Do the lessons go into some of the higher levels to help the students continue to learn these things who perhaps have mastered the rudimentary levels? And I understand what you're saying about the in-person versus the online, and how the in-person certainly might be a little bit different, but this does sound like something that could also be accomplished online if one had to. Sure.
And it works. For me, I love teaching. I love being with students. Last week I did an in-person. I just started doing in-person the last few months because I had to wait. We postponed my most recent class, which will be next week, because they had 2 COVID people. And so we had to wait. And I'll go back in on Thursday if there aren't any new cases that came up. So,
Sure.
But in person, the thing about communicating with anybody, I don't care whether you're neurotypical or you have a difference, developmental differences, if we can be close to someone, especially our folks, they don't like to be that close. Not that, the people that are close to them are normally their family or their parents or, someone that they're very close to that they trust. So when I get close to them at first, I'll go, when there's a circle, I'll go around, I'll get right in front of them and very close to them. And at first they kind of back off, and then they wonder, wow, this guy's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once I can gain their trust, their respect in a way, then I can teach them.
Mm-hmm.
And the methodology does incrementally get a lot more involved. So we start with a quarter note that's conventional, and that turns into a lot of different things. We use the quarter note to identify everything in the book. But the quarter note might turn into, different shapes. So where I would have 4 quarter notes on 4 drums, I may have a star, an oval, a triangle, and a circle. And then you'll tell me, what is that shape? Well, it's a star. When I first started this program, I was trying everything. I had 2 kids. One was 12. I still know them. One was 12, she's 30 now, and the other was 9 years old. They both had autism. And I said to, her name was Sailor, and I said, Sailor, how many angles in a star? She said, 10. I said, no, it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She said, no, Eddie. And she counted out and showed me how 1, 2, how there were 10 sides to the star, 5 points. And then she was like, do you have that?
She taught the teacher. There you
Oh,
go.
she was great. Yeah, I wrote it down. I never forgot it. And I always tell this story because I love this population. And autism is fascinating to me.
So this sounds like a program that really does address the rudimentary and the more advanced levels on a number of different topics. Is that correct?
Yes, reading, writing, arithmetic, social skills, creative thinking. It really addresses more than what meets the eye. I just wrote an article for Helen magazine. It's a new magazine out of Chattanooga. One of my board members is the editor. And the article talks about that. Don't sell the program short by looking at pictures. People will say, look at the website. And they go to the website and they see a circle and somebody's teaching from the center of the room and or closely. And they think it's a drum circle, and we're really not grasping any of the meat and potatoes of this. We're just bypassing it because we're looking past it. So yes, there are many pages in the book, and it incrementally grows more difficult, but staying with the theme for the most part. By the end of the book, it's like, there's a trapezoid, there are several different shapes and sizes and colors, a pentagon, a triangle. I got to tell you, one kid in a class, we're introducing new shapes, and I held up a trapezoid. I thought that's really hard, but why not? I mean, one time somebody asked me, why would you teach these people right away? Why would you teach them multiplication? And I said, why aren't you teaching them multiplication?
Yeah, that's right.
Don't ask me that. Are you kidding me? Sometimes you get a little hot because it's just there's that kind of
ignorance. It's ignorance, really, and it's a mentality that we need to address and we need to change for sure.
So my student was there, and I held up a trapezoid, and I said, "Who knows what this is?" And Erin, her name. I saw her recently. This was 10 years ago. Eddie, I know what it is. I said, "Okay, Erin, what is it?" And she stood up. She says, "It's a rectangle, and somebody sat on it." And everybody went, "Oh," and I just went, "You know what? You're absolutely right, dear. You're right." Yeah. But it's actually called the trap. We told her what it really was. But so that's the other thing. There are no wrong answers, and there are accolades after every student, after every exercise. When a student gets 1, 2, 3, 4, the whole class, yay! Fantastic, after every exercise. And if they get it wrong, yay, nice try, fantastic. So there's that element of the program, that it's fun, it encourages, it enables. We have some sort of games we play too that are fun, but it does get pretty, there's sign language. By the end of the book, you're telling me this is a trapezoid. It's green. This is the sign for green, and it's a matter of combining all these exercises and making them all, adding a little bit something extra all the way through the book. By the end of the book, it gets pretty difficult. I've only been through the book we did a class where we did our peer study with 26 children with autism. And we were published in the journals of special ed. It's the only class I got through the whole book with, and it took the year. And I was the teacher there, Denise Pinnell, was an autism specialist. And we worked together every week with those kids for a year, and we got through the whole book. But it's hard to do. It's hard to get through the whole thing. In South America, I mean, you asked me about South America, they get through it, and they teach other teachers primarily. So that gives us a different level of expertise to begin.
Where do you see this program going? Well, what about the future of TRAP? I mean, it seems to be in a lot of different places right now and going in various directions.
It comes and goes for a lot of people. The problem, if we would call it that, a lot of facilities hire, or they ask me to teach a couple of people who work there how to do it. And, I'm faced with this all the time. And I'll go in, and it costs them money if they bring me there, and I'll teach them for 2 or 3 days, and then a month later they quit. And so the program kind of falls by the wayside. I've always said that we have never failed a student. The student has never failed us, excuse me. The student has never failed us. We fail the students. If we're not there, if we're not enthusiastic about how we're teaching, if we don't entice them to want to learn, it's not going to happen. What I would love to see in the future is people like the people that work with me in South America. After a couple of years, I decided we should rewrite the book in Spanish, but also from a teacher's perspective. How would a teacher describe this? Not me, but a teacher. And we sat for 10 days, me and 4 teachers, and rewrote the whole book. Basically rewrote the whole book in Spanish and English. And from their perspective, so they added a lot of, they talked about not only the pedagogy, but the philosophy and the spiritual aspect of this program, which I espouse in my teaching, but I never wrote it down. So now it's written down, and it really does have that aspect. It's big in the Rhythmic Arts Project, the love, the kindness, the compassion. How many people do that? How many people, you have to love this population to work in it. Nobody's getting rich, but the rewards are unbelievable, just unbelievable. I mean,
sounds like a wonderful, wonderful program, Eddie. It really does. So how can our listeners reach you if they have questions or if they want to know more about this program?
The very best way is the website, and that is TRAP Learning, one word, TRAPLEARNING.org, traplearning.org. And there you'll have addresses and phone numbers and whatever other contacting. And you can see what the program is. You can see a lot. You can read testimonies. You can see videos. You can also see music. There's a lot of, all my musician friends, after I broke my neck, they all followed me into this other life. They're all there. Hundreds of musicians have supported the Rhythmic Arts Project over the years. And I get to play drums. They let me play. So that's fun. It's really fun for me.
Well, thank you, Eddie, so much for your time and for sharing a terrific resource with us today.
Okay, my pleasure. I wish we had another couple of hours.
Well, you are welcome to come back anytime.
What are you doing tomorrow?
I'll let you know.
Okay, bye.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other popular platforms. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can always access us and other great resources on our website, autismresourcepodcast.com. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life.